Well then, thoughts for My Little Pony Season 8, Episode 5, Grannies Gone Wild. And first thing on the docket is this episode name, which I'm surprised got it past the radar. Sure, we've had alcoholic drinks and body pillows, but it's still kind of weird, if not for any other reason than because it makes it pretty hard to Google this episode name. You need to be very specific for what you're looking for. But that aside, I really appreciate how the episode starts by having this little snippet of Rainbow Dash's life being a Wonderbolt and the group dynamics of Wonderbolts and how they spend their time outside of being Wonderbolts. Their nice little kind of board with images from activities they've done together and stuff like that. That is really cool to see as kind of this little side thing, just pushing the development of some subplot further. And of course, Rainbow Dash episodes are always filled with meme faces. That's kind of a tradition by this point, it seems, and this episode did not disappoint in that aspect. Anyways, off to the core of the episode, which is Rainbow Dash wanting to go on a roller coaster, and she needs Applejack to sub in for her for the School of Friendship. And this was a nice touch because it shows that ponies are busy already, and their lives of being also teachers is kind of hard to juggle. In this case, Rainbow Dash just doesn't have the time to do the things she wants anymore. That's kind of cool because I think Rainbow Dash probably has it the toughest, depending on whether she still does like weather manipulation, or is that something that's in the past now? But of course it's not just a Rainbow Dash episode, we also have the Gold Horseshoe Gals, which I can't imagine not being a reference to Golden Girls, the amazing TV show from like the 80s, which is hilarious and I highly recommend. But yeah, Gold Horseshoe Gals, consisting of everybody's favorite Granny Smith, Goldie Delicious that has already appeared many times before, and the less known Auntie Applesauce and Apple Rose. And out of the two lesser known, Auntie Applesauce definitely made a bigger impression. And it still blows my mind that technically she's aunt of Granny Smith. And while, yes, I have a friend who is older than his aunt, usually an aunt is older than you. And considering how old that would make Auntie Applesauce for her behavior, it's really amusing how she flirts with almost anything that moves. Which is funny, but also surprising to see this come from My Little Pony. And speaking of surprising, we have our sixth alicorn here in the form of an animation error, which, interestingly, the supervising director, Jim Miller, said that by the time when they discovered the mistake, it would be too costly to go back and edit it out. I can't presume to know how animation is made, so, gotta just trust him on that. And it really isn't a big deal. Mistakes happen. And it's something to talk about, of course. It's amusing. But anyway, the deal that Rainbow Dash makes to be able to go to Las Pegasus is to supervise the trip that the Gold Horseshoe Gals are having. Their yearly trip to have fun. And Rainbow Dash has to follow rules that are set by Applejack to how she should limit the Gold Horseshoe Gals from not, and I quote, getting too excited. And I gotta say, AJ's rules were too much. I'm not really sure if Big Mac usually goes to these trips, whether he follows these insane rules, but they were pretty much, I guess the most positive way to say would be well-intentioned nonsense. Because I understand being like, okay, they're old, need to pay attention to their health. But it was too ridiculous, and what's worse, AJ's spirit, the ghostly head of AJ kept popping up the whole episode and kind of repeating the rules, or, I mean, sure, it's the kind of the guilt of Rainbow Dash not wanting to bother with following the rules kind of manifesting or whatever, but it really got annoying pretty fast, and it actually tilted me a little at the very end of the episode when, again, Applejack's floating head did kind of like a smiling wink as the episode ended, and I was like, what are you looking so jolly about? This is like mostly your fault here. But yeah, I suppose it's there to create this good segue into a Rainbow Dash focused episode, which is a pretty classic one, but I think well executed. So basically, Rainbow Dash has promised to do something, but she also wants to do something for herself. So she's torn between loyalty towards following up something she promised to AJ and being selfish and just wanting to go for a ride. And it's nice that she really doesn't. I mean, she tries to screw with the Gold Horseshoe Gals trip and effectively, through her actions, make it less enjoyable for them. But she never, really bails out on them. And that is great. If she had bailed out even, once and just were like, okay, screw this, I'm out, this would have been a much worse episode just with a single slip-up like that. But because it was only her trying to, confine Gold Horseshoe Gals to their room so Rainbow Dash can just go off and do whatever she wants, that created for, a good, solid conflict that didn't go too far. Now, I guess I might as well continue segueing into the moral of the episode, which is, at least I took it as that old people might be old, but they're still people, and they can still have fun, they can still have lives. They need your help, probably, but they don't need to be micromanaged and treated as completely fragile and incapable of anything. They might be, and that's very sad, but very often they're not, and they're capable of leading, happy lives. And you shouldn't overdo it just because you can't be ours not doing it, essentially. It's a simple lesson, but one that was executed really well, and what's more, it didn't over-explain it, really, because some of the episodes lately feel like they need to, the writers feel like they need to lay the episode out at the end, do those couple of sentences that are this is what you should have learned from this. And you know what? Maybe other people got something else from this episode, but that's actually better than just telling people what they should think. I guess I'll keep the overall judgment for the end of this. Still, there's some things that need to be talked about. There's, a small thing that the references in a line of ponies that are standing to take the wild blue yonder, and you can see, references to Rick and Morty, references to Breaking Bad, and depending on how far you want to stretch, some other minor references. But the most important thing in the episode is, of course, Jackpot, Trixie's dad. I mean, it's been confirmed that he's Trixie's dad because in one of the, I'm not really sure if it's a book, some book related to MLP Media has kind of a snippet that's did you know Trixie's dad is Jackpot and he is a acclaimed magician? Only his name was known, but I mean, he looks like Trixie. He's a magician and he has the name Jackpot. So that's as confirmed as you can get. And it blows my mind. I need to see an episode, a Trixie episode, and I hope that this is the spark of a Trixie episode later in the season, or please at least next season. But you can't just leave me hanging like this. I'll actually tilt off the planet if I won't get a Trixie family episode. Please, Hasbro. Please. That's me being a turbo nerd. But yeah, it was genuinely an enjoyable episode, which kind of surprised me because Rainbow Dash episodes are not my favorite usually, and in general I think that I'm very apprehensive nowadays about the main 6 episodes, especially if it's just one of them. I guess although 2 of them is actually worse because then they kind of have to interact with each other, but that's a topic for another day. It genuinely was an enjoyable ride. And of course, in big part, it is because we had the Gold Horseshoe Gals, aka more side characters, so that there's not as much focus on Rainbow Dash. If you kind of compare an episode, like this episode with an episode from early seasons, definitely, while it is a Rainbow Dash focused episode, so an episode that's focused on one of the main 6, it's less screen time for them. But that worked out really well. A solid moral, executed well, good humor, with little tidbits here and there that spice it up, like Wonderbolts, Jackpot, and all those kinds of things. It's not an episode where I'm jumping up and down in joy of how great the episode was, but it's one of those episodes that just hold the season together by the virtue of just not being bad, being a part of a good season. And thus far, especially after last week's disappointing episode, it was good, and I hope to see more good episodes to come. Yeah, and see you in those good episodes then.